welcome back. We're going to do a really quick coffee talk. My name's Dr. Erica Barron, and this is Ellen Carosa, the Cat LVT. We're here at Nova Cat Clinic in Arlington, Virginia. And just to remind you, if you ever have any topics you'd like to hear or you have any questions, you could just email us at office@novacatclinic.com, or you can just message us below this video. In fact, we have a podcast coming out soon, but we're not totally sure what date it's going live yet. So when it is, we will let you know. We will tell you many, many times because we're pretty excited.
I know.
And if there's any ideas you want to hear about on the podcast, just let us know. Today, Ellen had the great idea, since we had a little bit of time, to talk about communication conundrums and what we can do to help each other. So Ellen, why don't you tell us why you think this is important? Because I feel like you think this is very important.
I do too. I feel like this is incredibly important. And it kind of ties in what we discussed before we went off on holiday about what exactly is a diagnosis and how communication is very important in order to not just make a complete diagnosis, but then to formulate a plan. And so in the mornings, my biggest job is to check in our surgical patients and to actually kind of listen to the clients on any concerns that they have. If they do have a concern, it is my job to come to you to relay it as the best of my ability. So in the afternoon, we do not have a problem upon discharge with the clients.
Right.
So actually sitting down with them and talking to them for anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes kind of gets a feeling of what the client's expectations are. Do they understand what we're doing with the procedure? Do they have any questions in regards to the estimate? Is there anything else going on with the pet that I need to know about? Because sometimes that actually can change the dynamic of what we're doing. I mean, many times we've had clients come in for procedures and they go and they tell me this new list of symptoms that their cat is having, and I'm like, and so today we're not doing this dental procedure.
Right.
We're going to be seeing the veterinarian for something else.
There's nothing better than someone bringing a pet in for a dental and then them having been vomiting for 3 or 4 days.
Right.
And it's no, we can't do the dental, but we could do other things, but thank you for telling us.
Right.
So,
and they could have been cleared just days before for the procedure. So it's really important to know that, because if the patient is just dropped off and you're like, okay, this is what we're going to do, even though we do a preliminary exam on them, they can be cleared for anesthesia and surgery. But now we have a pet with a comorbidity that could kind of change what we're actually doing, and it could actually harm the patient. So actually being very honest and transparent on what we're doing with your cat, actually I think really makes for a better relationship with you guys and for a better appointment, and we're actually able to provide much more higher quality medicine than expected.
I agree. And it's not just for patients that are dropped off for surgery or for procedure. Right. It's important to be open with communication when you're in an exam. So for example, if you come in and it was a wellness exam and you think, your cat just needs its wellness exam and a rabies vaccine, but you don't tell us that the cat's been limping for a month, or you don't tell us that now he's vomiting 2 to 3 times a week, and that's new. It's really important.
And you're saying about vomiting, okay. You know how everybody always my cat vomits, but that's not normal.
Right.
It's not normal.
It's not normal.
It's not normal. Cats should not be vomiting. It is not normal for them to have hairballs. They should come out the opposite end. If they have hairballs, then maybe we need to address diet and coat and everything else. It is not normal. So don't assume just because it's a behavior that's known about a cat that it's a normal behavior. You want to speak to your veterinarian about that.
Yes. I always think of vomiting in cats sort of it's one of those things where everybody's like, oh, cats can have milk. Cats are supposed to vomit intermittently. Cats are supposed to have hairballs intermittently. All of those are not true. They're not true. Don't give your cats milk. Cats don't need cow milk.
No. Cats basically don't need anything other than cat milk. If they need milk, they need cat milk.
Yes. So anyway, sorry about that tangent, but it's important that when you come in and you talk to your veterinarian, tell them anything new.
Yeah.
Is it weird that every so often your cat screams in the middle of the night, and that's new and that hasn't happened before, and now it's screaming in the middle of the night every night or every couple nights? There's something going on. We should check its blood pressure. There's certain things that might just seem like normal changes, but they're not. So make sure you tell your veterinarian. If they are normal changes, that's great. Now everybody knows and everyone's on the same page, because the whole point is for all of us to work together for the cat, so the cat has the best life possible living with you as long as possible.
Right, and I also feel like there's like a really big shift in the generational gap here when it comes to pet ownership. Like our newer pet owners, the millennials and on, tend to do a ton more research on their pets, and they come in with so much more, I want to say, brilliant questions about the health of their pet, because they really want those cats to live as a super senior and beyond. So it's kind of been neat over the past 20 some odd years that I've been in veterinary medicine to actually see the evolution of a pet owner really get into, like, not owning their pet, like having them as like a solid companion, like on how, you know, what's the best nutrition for them, you know, what is the best preventative medicine for them. And there's still like a lot of questions out there, like when they come to you and you're like, okay, look, I know where you got this from, that information's actually kind of incorrect, so let's discuss this a little bit further. And they're like more open to, I don't want to call it bending the rules about medicine, but more adaptable to like suggestions and everything, versus being like, no, this is always how it's been, I've owned cats for like 30 years and this is the only thing I want, versus the younger generation is definitely more adaptable on learning about their pet and actually, you know, having the best life they possibly can have. And that's what we're here for.
I also think part of it is just that maybe in the younger generation, there's a lot more people who aren't having kids. Also, as a society, we've changed from treating an illness to preventing illness.
Right.
So I think that's part of it too. We're now, as a society as a whole, we're trying to prevent illness, versus before it was like, oh, you have a disease, okay, we'll treat that. Okay, you have another disease, we'll treat that, versus trying to prevent those things. So I think that's part of the mind shift too. Heather, are there any questions?
Not yet.
Not yet. If anybody has any questions, just feel free to stick them in at any time. So are there any other things you wanted to talk about communication, Ellen?
Well, I also think it's important, like, as far as communication goes, if you don't understand something, please say you don't understand something. It is extraordinarily frustrating on our part when we have somebody come in and they nod their head, yes, this I completely understand, I just want my paperwork and go. Well, we could be telling you something incredibly important that pertains to your pet's either disease process or treatment plan, etc. And if we don't have your full attention, this is where the breakdown in communication starts. And then, I hate to say this, but sometimes I feel like we get hate mail that, you know, people contact us extremely frustrated, and we can be like, no, we went over all of that with you, because I know I was either the one that did it, or we know Lexi was the one that did it, or you guys made a very in-depth email. And it's like, where are we not understanding something? So if, you know, it's nothing against, if you don't understand something, we're not going to belittle you or think that, you know, you're stupid. I mean, I would hate for people to think that, you know, us in medicine talk down to our clientele. We want to try to give them as much information as possible. But if you legitimately do not understand what your veterinarian is trying to tell you, say you don't understand it, so we can actually explain it to you from a different pathway.
The other thing is, besides not just not understanding it, if it's not possible, just be upfront and say it. So for example, if I was seen somewhere and they're like, your cat needs to get this medication 3 times a day, I would say, thanks, but I can't do that because I'm not home 3 times a day.
And that's something I always want in my lectures. I always say, are you physically capable of medicating and taking care of the problem at hand? Are you emotionally able to handle the diagnosis that your pet's been given, especially if it's something that could be life-threatening or even terminal? You know, I mean, it's a lot for people to process. And can you financially afford it? Like, some of these medications and treatment options, I mean, I'll be honest, it's happened to me too, that you go walking in there and you're gulping at like a couple $1,000 bill for your pet. Like, are you financially able to take care of it? And I think it really does make or break the treatment options sometimes. And if when people say, I cannot do X, Y, and Z, it makes it a lot easier for you guys to go like, okay, so we can't do X, Y, or Z, or maybe just only X or Z. Well, maybe we can do this instead and give you treatment options, or even just other options on medications, etc., might cost a little bit more. Like compounded medications tend to cost more than just ones you can go pick up at CVS. I mean, I'll be honest, you know, when I fill Egbert's compounded medications, they're like $70-something a piece.
Yeah.
You know, and that's kind of a little bit of a hard swallow, but that's the only way I can give him his medication because it has to be compounded in such a small dose for him.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, you know, this is what we need to do. And if you're transparent and honest about like your concerns that you can't do this, then it makes our lives like a ton easier to treat your pet.
The other thing is, I always think it's better if it's possible if all of the owners are present when we're talking about these things, that if you're upfront in person, because it's like, okay, I went through all this information with you, you go home and you're like, yeah, that's not going to work for me, because, and you knew that up front, and then now we have to come up with plan B, C, D. Right. It's so much easier to do that in person when you're at the clinic talking to your vet, because then you're able to, besides kind of cut to the chase to where you need to be, you're able to work on it together.
Right.
I think that's another thing, is like, just be upfront. Like, if, you know, for me, if someone was like, you have to medicate your cat 3 times a day, it's like, you know, I can't. I'm not home at those intervals 3 times a day. Okay, well, what can we do? Because maybe you could give them an injection. Oh, that one doesn't work. Okay, well, if that doesn't work, what else could we do? Would I have to board her for 2 weeks because I'm not home? Would I have to get a neighbor to help? Would I, you know?
Right. I remember a long time ago, when we were in like the older clinic, we had this little old cat that used to come in all the time, and he was there more than 3 times a week for fluid therapy. And because they could not do it at home, they were there all the time for fluids. And we knew it was like clockwork. He was going to walk in the door at 8 a.m. for his fluids.
Yep.
We gave him his fluids, and he was gone within 5 minutes. But, like, they admitted, they're like, there's no way I can medicate him. You guys can. Have fun. And they were willing, you know, to do it. They were financially able to kind of cover the costs each time that they came in to, you know, have it done. And, you know, he lived well into his late senior years. And he hated us to the day that he passed. But it worked out for them.
Yeah, and the other thing is, like, yes, doing fluids, that's an example. Doing fluids at home will be cheaper. But it probably wasn't that much to come in. I don't think we charge very much for fluids. Some clinics do, we don't. If you already have the bag, we just help you, and it's a nominal fee. But I mean, that cat, for him, going in the carrier and getting here wasn't the hard part. Right. It was the owners doing the fluids.
Doing something to him, the cat did not appreciate it. And when we were able to do it, they were not. So we were able to kind of work with what they needed for him. So
we've had cats that have come in twice a day when their owners couldn't do ear meds and things like that. I mean, you just have to work with what you're able to do, and talk to your.
Is that your phone?
That's for the glucose.
Oh, that's for the glucose cutter. I was like, wow.
That's really funny.
No, you can wait a few moments.
But sorry, going back, it's just important for us to know, you know, just to be upfront, say what you can do, what you need to do, what you're able to do.
Yeah, I mean, this is what we're here for. We're not going to judge you. Remember, our whole point is for us to help you and not be judgmental. And like, if you cannot understand something, or you physically, financially, emotionally can't handle it, say something to your vet at that point in time, because they're going to take that appointment to a different avenue and really kind of sit down and talk to you and figure out what we can do together.
Are there any questions, Heather? Okay.
Okay, so if the budget doesn't allow for fully raw diet, what are some options for cats who vomit up hairballs?
Well, I don't think raw diet is the answer for hairballs.
No, so I would work with your veterinarian to try to figure out why the cat's getting hairballs. So maybe there's a motility disorder. Yeah. Maybe it's just indigestion from the food. You know, like there's certain foods you could do like a food elimination diet and try to figure out what it is. Raw diet might not be the answer. I don't know. I don't know a lot about raw diet, so when I have someone who wants to do raw diets, we usually recommend, what was that book?
Oh, it was Dr. Picairn's book of home nutrition. There's actually a really good website called balanceit.org, and you can pick your protein, you can pick your other additives and everything, and it tells you the supplements you have to purchase to put in these diets. Remember, you just can't feed them raw chicken or beef and hope for the best. That's not how a raw diet works. But you can make your own home foods that way. That is nutritionally balanced, because you have to remember, with cats, we have to, have enough fats and proteins and taurine, that essential amino acid there. Are we making sure that it's done correctly, so there's no salmonella, E. coli, listeria, like all this other fun stuff that could happen with raw foods? And everybody's out there saying, raw food's the answer, raw food's the answer. In some cases, raw food might be your option to help your animal. I will be honest, I had 2 of my own cats on raw food, and it made a world of difference for them after I did everything else to eliminate what could potentially be the issue. Then they did well. Was it fun to do? Absolutely not. My house was like done up like Dexter the entire time. I had plastic everywhere. Everything was sterilized. My cats could only eat a certain portion of it, and they had to eat it within 30 minutes. It was a lot of work, and it was actually honestly really stressful. And now you have all these other food companies out there that will make prepackaged stuff, but still, again, then you have all these food companies out there coming and saying, oopsie, now we have like a big E. coli thing. It could be in your cat's food, etc. So if that happens, well, not a lot of other options out there. But I don't think raw food is the answer to the problem. I think you have to eliminate everything else before we say, yes, let's go ahead and try raw.
Yes, a good example of when raw food does not work well. My cat has a mast cell tumor in her stomach, and I was like, if I can't do anything, maybe I at least can change her to a raw food diet. And the oncologist specifically said, do not feed her raw food because she is immune compromised, and since it is an allergy-based tumor, if you feed her something she is allergic to, it will do worse. So they specifically told me not to feed her raw food. However, I do think raw food, as Ellen said, has its place, but you need to work with your veterinarian.
Yeah, absolutely.
So there's another question. Is it safe to feed a vegetarian diet?
Absolutely not. Don't even talk to me about a vegetarian diet for your cat. Do not. That's animal abuse. I am sorry. Yeah. Do not feed a vegetarian diet to your cat. Ever. You are going to hurt your cat. You are going to make sure it blows its retinas. It's not going to be nutritionally balanced. It's not going to have any taurine in its diet. It is a true carnivore. You feed it a true carnivore diet, not a vegetarian diet or a vegan diet.
The rest of the question did mention even with supplements.
Even with supplements, no. Do not do it. It is animal abuse.
So that was Ellen's opinion, so I agree. Okay.
Is one of the things that, it genuinely heats me up.
I know, I can tell.
Do not do it. That's like forcing somebody, another species, to eat it because of your ethical concerns. I get your ethical concerns, but you can't force a lion to eat a palm tree. Yeah. Or eat like a goat. You can't force a goat to eat all meat products and stuff. That is cruel.
Yeah. It's also, same with dogs. They're carnivores, they need to eat, but cats are even more a true carnivore, so it is really important that they eat a meat-based diet.
Right. And I feel like a little bit more emotional today about some stuff, because I was reading some stuff on another website about some other things that kind of go wrong in veterinary medicine and with clientele and all this kind of stuff, and it was just like really disappointing, so I feel a little bit more sensitive about it. But I feel like we are doing a very good job trying to educate everybody on what you can do to be a really good cat owner, because there's so much misinformation out there that everybody's kind of getting their communications crossed on what they can do and what they can't do. By the way, I think my veterinarian's wrong, because all they want to do is prescribe RX diets, and it costs a lot of money. We're actually treating a disease with those prescription diets. So it's not like we want your cats to be eating prescription diets. We're actually treating a disease with those prescription diets. We're not doing it just to make money, okay? By the way, your veterinary office doesn't make a lot of money on prescription diets, just putting it out there, because now you have all the online sales and everything that are actually making more money than your veterinarian. So I feel like when it comes to diet, that they go online and they think of the hive mind, and they ask all of their friends, and they're getting the wrong information on the correct diet for these animals. Or they're listening to somebody who took a 6-hour course in PetSmart or whatever other pet stores out there, and you have the little nutritional consultants going around, and they are not nutritionists. They're somebody who just simply took a course from the food company and they're trying to get you to buy their food.
There's no letters after their last name.
So, I feel like everybody's swayed to do stuff simply because they're being told it's correct. It's kind of like, you have the celebrities out there that are like, oh, I'm going to drink alkaline water. And then, by the way, your body, maintains your body at a pH of 7.4 anyway. So, like, adding, lemon juice to alkaline water and stuff like that is not going to make you any healthier. People believe it. It's not going to happen. Or if people need a detox, you have a liver, kidneys, and lungs that are going to help you detox anyway. So I feel like there's like so much stuff out there for miscommunication and stuff like that really kind of gets everybody confused about being a pet owner.
There is, and in terms of the major companies, in terms of the major food companies, they do research, and they have been doing it for years. And we're not going to talk about any additives or anything like that. Like, the reason there's a lot of cats who live longer with kidney disease is partly in turn because they're eating the kidney diets.
Right. And these food companies do billions of dollars worth of research. It's IAMS, Eukanuba, Science Diet, Royal Canin, and ProPlan, or Purina, are the top 5 food companies that do billions and billions of dollars of food research. They're actually going to be an AFCO standard diet, that we know those foods are quality food. Doesn't matter what brand, as long as it has like the Purina, Hills, whatever on it, you're going to get a really high quality food.
Right.
Regardless of the name it has.
And the other thing, in terms of vegetarian diets and stuff like that, please do not feed your cat, or if you have a dog, a grain-free diet. That is not acceptable anymore unless there is, for your specific pet, a reason for them to be on it, because there is a lot of research showing, and unfortunately many pets have died from getting a non-typical cardiomyopathy or heart disease from grain-free. And it has happened in a few cats. So it's very important for you not to feed that. So please don't feed your pets grain-free diets unless you've had this discussion with your veterinarian and there's a reason for that. We went off on a big tangent there. Are there any other questions?
On food, but it's communication.
Oh, it's all on food? Okay, well, why don't we do 1 or 2 more on food, and then we'll go check this cat's glucose.
Okay. Is it okay to, are freeze-dried treats okay for snacks?
Yeah, of course.
I think so. That's great.
As long as it's a snack, it's a snack.
And then what are alternatives do you suggest for a cat that won't eat a urinary prescription diet?
So one of the things I like to do for cats that will not eat urinary diets is to give them an herb called Crystal Stone formula. You can talk to your veterinarian about that. Do not just buy it on the internet. That's a very bad idea.
Because everybody's sitting there all of a sudden like, I'm going to Google up Crystal Stone formula.
Please don't do that. You need to get it from Jintang Herbal, and you need to be a veterinarian in order to get it. Or your veterinarian can write you a prescription and you can get it. But it might not be appropriate for your pet, so you need to talk to them. Yes, Heather?
I was going to say there's one more question.
Oh, okay, sorry. Other things you can do is if I can't get them to eat any urinary diets and they won't take the herbs, then the other thing I'll do is I'll just give them any wet food they want and not let them have dry food.
Yep, you get a little bit more water to it.
Yeah.
Help dilute some things out.
Some people like to use distilled water. Some people think that helps. But if you can't get them to eat any urinary food, then what I would do to just be safe is I would probably take them in every couple of months and just have a urinalysis done to make sure nothing weird is cropping up. Maybe get like a bladder scan too.
Last question.
And then last one, so this was a follow-up to the grain question. What kinds of grains would you recommend?
Whatever's in the food. You just do not want to buy a grain-free food.
Right, and then the thing is, like, there's so many grain-free cat foods out there. By the way, if you feed your cat wet food, it is grain-free. That is appropriate. What people have the misconception for, and by the way, you can go on the AFCO website. It's a public website. You can go and actually really learn about feline and canine nutrition on it. What's a byproduct? What grains are appropriate? People think everything's over-processed. Fun fact, it's not. You actually need to understand what they're really doing with the foods and how the food is actually broken down so the body can utilize it. So I feel like if you go to AFCO.org, you can go ahead and look up everything about grains, etc. There are some cats that might have a grain sensitivity versus a true allergy, etc. But you have to do that through diagnostics and having an actual legitimate diagnosis of like a grain allergy, etc. So we can't just say, go ahead and feed your cat grains. Corn might be appropriate, beet pulp might be appropriate, quinoa might be appropriate. It all depends upon what the food is meant to do, the disease it's supposed to treat, and whether or not it's nutritionally complete. So I think that's where a lot of people get really concerned about this, because they're like, my cats are not supposed to have corn, because everybody thinks corn is the devil. Corn is not the devil. Cilantro's the devil.
I love cilantro. I disagree. I love cilantro.
The devil's lettuce.
It's so good.
So
it's so good.
Like, there's all these opinions out there, but I think what you should do is actually go to the websites that are really meant for learning about diet. It is ASCO. It's the Veterinary Nutritional Academy as well. That's where you can learn about diets correctly.
The other thing is, like, all of these questions in terms of what foods you should feed and whatnot, they're great ones for your veterinarian when you have your yearly wellness.
Yeah.
And, what my main thing is, when someone asks me what kind of food they should be feeding their cat, it's whatever food the cat will eat, number one. And then number two, what else is going on, so we can figure it out. So, like, for example, my little cat at home, we have her on calm diet because she tends to be kind of jumpy. And then we introduced another cat in the house not too long ago, and it helps both of them. So they both eat calm, and that's why I have them on calm. We try to feed them CD stress because she does have some interstitial cystitis, but she didn't like it, so she just eats calm. And I didn't switch her to the urinary. She didn't really like it.
Yeah.
So that's why.
Depends on what they want to eat.
But that diet might not be right for your cats. Any other questions, Heather?
No.
Are there any on the Facebook one?
No.
Okay.
Can you repeat the name of the website that you
AFCO, AFCO. And then there's also
It's
the
probably-
Veterinary Nutritional
it's probably
Council.
.org. I would think it's afco.org or maybe .gov.
One of those.
Yeah.
I was actually writing up about AFCO today to one of our clients. They had a question about a senior diet, and I was like, you might want to research some here.
Right.
And then also the Veterinary Nutritional Council.
Yeah, I would just Google that and you can find it.
They'll get you some information too. And you can actually contact an actual nutritionist if you have a lot of questions and you need an actual consult, that you have more further questions about nutrition. They're more than there to actually kind of help you with that.
Yes, just make sure that they are a boarded nutritionist and they have letters after their name, because they went to school for a long time to do this. And they have the right information. They're not just, there's, if anyone's interested, there is a veterinarian, I can't think of her name. She's in Canada. She's very funny. She goes by the Kibble Queen, or the Kibble Doctor, I think. And she's a nutritionist, and she's just focused on dogs and cats, and she's a great person to ask questions to as well. All right, well, thanks for spending this time with us. We talked about a lot of things today I didn't think we'd talk about. So if you have any other questions or concerns, just let us know. Thank you. Bye.